Hey there, welcome back to True North Reviews. My name is Ryan, and today we're doing an episode of Hot and Cold. This is a video series I like to do where I pick out the best and worst music I heard over the past week. For this episode, we'll be looking at any songs put out between March 17th and March 23rd, 2019. Pretty simple, the song just has to be released within that time. Kicking off with the hot, these are the best tracks. We have a new single from Foster the People. This one is called Style. And this one I didn't really know was Foster the People at first when I originally listened to it. I kind of had to do a double take because the vocals from Mark Foster on this track are a bit lower than what we're used to from him. It's a great track though, the vocal performance is very charismatic, there's an enjoyable melody to it too, and the synth and bass are reverberating. Next up from there we have Fitz The Tantrums. They return with a new single, it's called 1 2 3 4 5 6. This is following up their inescapable single from 2016, Hand Clap. I mean, if you didn't hear that song, I just don't think you were living in that year. And you know what, this new song's got this corny vibe, very much in the same vein as Hand Clap, but it's really catchy and it's really fun. I'd highly recommend checking out the full-length song review of this from SMEB Reviews. I will have that linked in the description and you'll find it on the screen here as well. I just feel like on that channel Noah does a great job of summarizing a lot of the same kind of thoughts that I have with this song, and I definitely agree with him. The lyrics are of no substance, but it's still a fun and catchy song. Next up from there we have Kevin Parker, also known as Tame Impala. He is returning with a new single. This one is called Patience. This is following up the 2015 record Currents, which was a massive success. I'm digging this new track though. The congas shine on this along with the spacious keys and synthesizers. I'm also really loving the warped and bent mix to this song. It's just very mesmerizing. In addition to this, Kevin's lyrics are like a direct response to his absence, as it sounds like he's really directly talking to his audience here, and he knows that he's been kind of holding off on putting out new music, and he's just been keeping everyone waiting. But now you can't complain anymore because he has a new single out, and hopefully this is leading up to a new album. Moving on from there, we have a new single from Ra Riot. This one is called Bad to Worse. This one sounds like a Vampire Weekend single, at least until the chorus when the heavier synths come in. Also, the chorus on this song has some falsettos that may get on your nerves, but in the right setting, I think the song will click with you because of its infectious qualities. Last week we also got two new singles from the punk band Pup. Both of them are great in my opinion. One is called Sibling Rivalry and the other one is called Scorpion Hill. One thing that's notable with the first song I mentioned there, Sibling Rivalry, is that the descending guitar line in the chorus is very similar to something you would hear off Weezer's White album. It's got like this pop punk vibe to it, and I am all for it. The second track that dropped by Pup last week starts off a little slower, but don't let that fool you because it explodes with a quicker tempo and passionate drum performance. Both tracks that were released by Pup are pretty solid, and I'm excited for the new album that's dropping in April. Last week also saw a new single from Catfish and the Bottlemen. This one is called To All. I feel like this one's a bit more underwhelming compared to the first two singles that were released. Just feels a little more stagnant, a little more static with the guitar, especially in the chorus, but there's something that's still captivating to it that I keep coming back to listen to it. It's surprising because the structure is pretty basic, but I got to say the vocal performance is probably the saving grace to this song. Up next, a bit more hip-hop flavor on here. Last week we saw a new single from Quelle Chris. This one is called Obamacare. On this one the beat is great. It's very dark. It's got like this early 2000s hip-hop feel to it, something like Cannibal Ox or like a tripped out kind of Jurassic 5 song. I'm looking forward to the new album from Quelle Chris. Yeah, he's been putting out some pretty solid work lately. Another hip-hop track I can recommend from the past week, it's a hot track as well. This one is from Injury Reserve. It's featuring Aminé and it's called Jailbreak the Tesla. This one's great. It's got some rattling 808s. The wordplay is also a highlight on this song. It's also pretty experimental. We get some industrial kind of sounds in the interlude before Aminé's verse, which is also pretty solid. And now wrapping up the hot tracks of the week, we have a new single from Mavis Staples. This one is called Change. And man, this thing isn't really that special because it's 12-bar blues. We've heard that a million times at this point from how many artists, but something about Mavis, she really makes this track feel special. I think that's really due to her soulful vocals, and really this track just has a nice folk feel to it. She's really building on top of her electrifying vocal performance on the Hosier track Nina Cried Power, and this has just got me really excited for her new solo album that's coming out in May. Now moving on to the middle of the road tracks. In the past week I heard these songs. They weren't the best, they weren't the worst, just something to keep on your radar. We have a new single from Weyes Blood. This one's called Movies. This one is very dreamy. It's also very entrancing. The vocals are holy and ethereal. However, the one element that's really holding me back from calling this a hot track is the fact that it's 6 minutes long, and I feel like it's lacking some progression to it. It does switch up the instrumentation around the midway point, but it's not really much to captivate me because it just plays the same rhythm and the same melody over and over again. I just feel like I'm not really convinced to sit through the entire 6 minutes. Up next, we have a new single from Sara Bareilles. This one's called Saint Honesty. This one's a bit more of a slower ballad-like track. It's very minimal in its instrumentation. It's got this 6/8 rhythm. The vocals on the track are in tune and they soar. There's not much about the track I don't like. It's just I feel like it's pretty run-of-the-mill with the structure, the chord progression, and the overall tune. Dan Mangan has a new single out. It's called X Factor. This one is very sad. It's depressing. The lyrics are just absolutely gut-wrenching. The song's almost unlistenable for that very reason, so if you're going to listen to it, I highly recommend grabbing a tissue box while you're at it. You know what? The song does provoke a sadness. That is a reason to listen to it, but I just feel like the track overall is missing something special that made his previous full length so amazing, in my opinion. I think at the end of the day, I'm just a bigger fan of his more upbeat songs. Moving on from there, we have a new track from Lizzo. This one is called Tempo. Stylistically, this track is all over the place. We get some screeching guitars at the beginning that makes me feel like I'm listening to a rock song. Then it switches into a bit more of a trap rap kind of song. It really makes me feel like I'm listening to Iggy Azalea. And then in the bridge, I feel like we're listening to a Bruno Mars song with the descending synthesizer lines. I mean, Missy Elliott is a lot more interesting on this compared to her feature on the Ariana Grande album from last year. I think she was on the song Borderline. But yeah, I just feel like this track is so all over the place. I don't know what they were really going for. I'm still looking forward to the new album though. But yeah, this new one is just middle of the road in my opinion. Wrapping up the middle of the road tracks this week, we have a new song from Pronoun. This one is called Temporary Tantrum. I listened to Pronoun's single Stay, which came out a few weeks ago. This new one feels like it's got a similar vibe to it with the melody, just not as captivating in that regard or the energy. I feel like this one's aiming to be a bit more laid back. The mix on this one is just really low. I don't know why I had to turn up the volume. Maybe it's just an Apple Music thing, but I had that problem at least, and I don't know if that was the final mixing with this song, and that's what they were going for. Wrapping up this week, we have some cold tracks that I will quickly go through. These were the worst songs in my opinion. Kicking this off, we have a new single from Logic. This one is called Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. Very generic. The flow is as standard as you can get for rap. It's just rap on autopilot in my opinion. Moving on from there, we have a new single from Tierra Whack. This one's called Unemployed. She's been putting out a lot of music lately. I feel like it's a single per week at this point. This one I don't really like. The beat is pretty rigid, the vocals are obnoxious, and the lyrics don't really have much to say. Up next, we have a new single from Broken Social Scene. This one is called Can't Find My Heart. This thing is just lifeless. It's tepid alternative rock. I feel like there's no flair to it or no personality, and that's really a letdown given that the part one of their EP that they put out earlier this year was pretty solid in my opinion. It had some catchy qualities to it. This new song is catchy, but like, I don't know, I just don't really feel much of the energy or vibe behind it. Moving on from there, Nav put out a new song. This one is featuring The Weeknd. This one is called Price on My Head. The vocals in the chorus from Abel are some of the worst that I've heard in his entire career. The falsettos are just really trying to reach for something that they can't hit. The vocals from Nav are as robotic as ever too, doesn't really make the track that much more enjoyable. And closing out this week, we have a new single from the Budos band. This one is called Veil of Shadows. Probably the biggest letdown in my opinion, just because it has a promising start to it. I mean, if you like the classic Doors kind of organ, I would say this track is right up your alley. Sadly though, I feel like the rough around the edges production is a little underwhelming. And as cool as it is to have some instrumentation being split between the channels, you know, like what the Beatles were famous for doing, I just feel like the track loses its dark or brooding pulse and it loses its appeal for me. There you have it. There's Hot and Cold for this week. I'll catch you next time. Thanks for checking out this video. Tell me what you think of these songs. Sound off down below in the comments. Leave a like if you like. Subscribe if you're new in town. Thanks for watching. And as always, have a rockin' day. I'll catch you next week.